Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode of Pigskin Picks. It's NFL Week 14, and the season is absolutely flying by. I first want to start off talking about my team, the Minnesota Vikings, who are the number one seed in the NFC after last week when the Seattle Seahawks beat the Eagles and the Vikings beat the Atlanta Falcons. The Vikings have now won 8 straight games, and we're sitting at 10-2. We just beat the Falcons on the road in the Chick-fil-A Dome, winning 14-9, allowing 0 touchdowns and just 3 field goals. The Vikings can now clinch the NFC North with a win in Carolina, or if we lose, Green Bay and Detroit loses, then we can still clinch the NFC North as well. It's a pretty exciting time to be a Vikings fan. As everyone knows, the Super Bowl is held this year in the Vikings Stadium at US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. It'd be amazing for us to make it there, and I'm extremely excited for the future to come. Moving on to my Week 13 review. Week 13 picks were mainly focused on GPP style, but I think from now on I'm going to focus on cash game lineups because cash game lineups are what I feel more confident at. I feel like my ability to produce a good cash game lineup is better, and from now on I think I'm just going to focus on cash game lineups. The goal in the cash game lineup, if you're still not sure about how to play a cash game, is you kind of want to find players that you can find 2.5 times their salary in points, and that'll get you to 125 points, which most of the time, if you get 125 or more points, that'll get you in the top 45% of double-ups and 50-50s, or head-to-heads maybe even, and that'll get you into the green, which means you're going to be winning some money. And a couple of busts that I had last week that I wasn't too happy about was Mike Evans got me 5.3, Jordan Howard got 4.3, Jared Cook only got 1.9, Hopkins got like 16 or something around 16, and he could have definitely put up more, as we've seen Hopkins put up 20 plus in consecutive weeks. Jared Goff got 16, Ricky Seals-Jones put up 6.4, which he didn't get in the end zone like I expected. And the Jets D, who I expected to be a good GPP play, didn't work out at all as the Chiefs went from being ice cold to red hot. My favorite play of the week that I had was Rex Burkhead as he went off, and pretty sure he had about 2 touchdowns. So moving on to my Week 14 picks, I like Blaine Gabbert for cash games at 4,800 versus the Tennessee Titans. We only need Blaine Gabbert to get 12 points to cover his value. And he's got 12 or more points in all 3 of the weeks he's played, including tough matchups versus the Jags where he put up 19, and a tough matchup versus the Rams where he put up 12. I know people may be concerned with the 2 picks last week, but the Rams are a pretty solid defense, and this week he's got a much easier matchup at home versus the Tennessee Titans, ranked 25th against the pass, giving up 242 pass yards a game. So I'm locking in Blaine Gabbert at quarterback. He's extremely cheap. I'm locking him in. At wide receiver, pairing with Blaine Gabbert, I'm going with Larry Fitzgerald at 6,500. I like Larry Fitzgerald in this matchup versus Tennessee. Ideally, we want Larry to hit the 16 to 17 DraftKings point mark to reach his value. If you look at his game log, my computer froze a little bit. If you want to look at his game log, he's been targeted 32 times in the last 4 weeks, scoring 24 plus DraftKings points in 3 of his last 4 weeks. The only week he kind of had a slower week was against Jacksonville, who is the number 1 ranked pass D. We cannot knock on Larry Fitzgerald for only putting up 6.2 that week, especially with Blaine Gabbert as his quarterback. I like Larry Fitzgerald against the Titans this week to keep it rolling. I'm going to lock him in with Blaine Gabbert. The first running back I'm going with is Mike Davis, the Seattle Seahawks running back. He's become definitely the lead dog in Seattle. His price tag, I think, is absolutely way too cheap at $3,700. He could definitely exceed his value. He's in a real favorable spot against the Jags. Everyone thinks the Jags have such a great defense, and they definitely do against the pass. But against the rush, they're a little bit more vulnerable. They've given up 115.4 rush yards a game, ranking 20th. And they also kind of give up quite a few receptions to backs. And I think Mike Davis is in a good spot because he's a good game flow neutral back. and he works well in the run and the pass. So I'm looking for Mike Davis to absolutely cover his value. I think he could definitely put up, maybe a good 15 to 17 points in this game. Maybe score a touchdown even. My next running back I'm going to target is LaShawn McCoy. I think LaShawn McCoy could be the running back of the week. At 7,200, I think it's a great price tag for a guy like McCoy. He's in a favorable matchup versus the Colts, who are allowing 23.9 DraftKings points per game to opposing backs, and Indy has also allowed backs to catch 53 of 68 targets for 159 yards, which is the 6th highest total in the NFL. Moving on to my next wide receiver pick, I got AJ Green at the Chicago Bears at 7,300. This is a great price tag on AJ Green. You might want to get him while he's on the lower end of 7K. He's also on fire right now after the last game. He's been heavily targeted. He's got 33 targets in his last 3 games, and he had 16 in his last game against the Steelers. He even had a play in that game where he had like a 70-plus yard touchdown catch, but it also got nullified by a penalty. So this 26 could have been well over 30 points. He's also had 4 touchdowns in his last 4 games, averaging 1 touchdown in his last 4 games. Green is looking more like Green again. I would pick Green to get you in the green this week for Week 14. The next wide receiver I want to pick is Robbie Anderson with the New York Jets against Denver Broncos at 6,500. I'm really liking Robbie Anderson lately. This dude is just a stat stuffer. Robbie Anderson's been consistently producing good numbers since Week 8. If we go back to Week 8, he's been putting up 25, 14, 18, 35, 22. He's been extremely consistent. I know Denver ranks 4th against the pass, giving up 203.6 yards a game, which is pretty solid. But I'm going to take production and targets over and touches over the matchup for Robbie. As we see, he's been targeted heavily with 29 targets in his last 3 games. His last 2 games, he went over 100 yards with 147 and 107. And before last week, he had at least 1 touchdown in every game for 5 games straight. As we see, he started against Miami in Week 7, he had a touchdown. Atlanta, he had a touchdown. The following week in Buffalo, he had a touchdown. Following week in Tampa Bay, he had a touchdown. Put up 2 against Carolina. Last week, he didn't have one, but he still put up 22.4 DraftKings points. Robbie Anderson has been extremely solid. And it also really helps that Josh McCown has been absolutely balling out this year. At tight end, I'm going with Travis Kelce. I think Travis Kelce is going to be a good play this week at 7,400. The Raiders ranked 28th versus the tight end. He's been a real favorite target for Alex Smith, who seems to be back on track. Travis Kelce has put up 20 plus. If we go to his game log, he's put up 20 plus in 3 of his last 4 games, and he's been pretty healthy lately. As we know, if we go to tight ends here and look, like Ingram's available, who's been healthy, but also he's on kind of a weaker D. I know he's been a good part of Eli's weapons, but I still think Travis Kelce has more upside, but Ertz might not be playing, Walker might not be playing, so I really like Kelce in this matchup. Everyone else seems to be banged up at the tight end position, like Hunter Henry might not be playing. Greg Olsen seems like he might be on track to play, but we don't know. So I like Hunter Henry. I like Travis Kelce. I still think he's going to put up the most points this week out of all the tight ends. I'm locking him in. At flex, I'm going to go with Giovanni Bernard. I'm going with Gio at 3,100. You got to go with Gio. He's way too cheap for a starting quarterback. Mixon got hurt in the Monday night game, and he's really listed as doubtful with that concussion. Gio becomes the guy to start against the Bears. The last game he averaged 5.9 yards per carry on 13 attempts, racking up 77 yards, and he also gets a few receptions. If you look at here, he had 2 receptions on 3 targets. Earlier in the year, he had 5 targets, 5 receptions. So he's using the passing game a little bit, maybe not too much, but I think he could definitely exceed his value for sure at 3,100. He's only got to get about, 10 points or so. And he got 11.6 and didn't even play the full game against Pittsburgh. So in a full game against Chicago, especially a game You know, Chicago's not too good. Cincinnati might be leading. They might not. I think this could be a close game. But if they are leading, I think they'll give Gio a lot of garbage time touches, and I think he can definitely score way over his value. I think he can maybe put up close to 15, maybe 14, somewhere in there. I don't expect too much out of him because he's at 3,100 and he's not on a very good team with a good offensive line, but I think he can definitely exceed his value. At defense, I was really stifled about what defense to use this week, but I think I'm going to decide with the Buffalo Bills defense at 3,100 versus the Colts. The Bills D had a rough go lately, but their opponents the last 4 games, if we go into their game log, their last 4 opponents were the Patriots, the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Saints, who were all pretty damn good offenses. And I'm really picking the Bills basically because their defenses have averaged second most points versus Brissett and the Colts this year. So I'm going to lock in the Bills. I think they're kind of the best bet. If you didn't want to go with the Bills, I might go with someone maybe like the Bengals against the Bears. The Bears' offense is not too solid. Jordan Howard might be up for a big game though, but I'm going to go with the Bills. I think the Bills are a good safe bet. That's just what I'm going to lock in as the Bills. I hope everybody has a successful Week 14. If you enjoyed the content of my Week 14 picks, feel free to give the video a thumbs up or subscribe. I will be back next week with my Week 15 picks. Once again, good luck to everybody and hope you end in the green.